Welcome to Women in B2B Marketing, a show where CMOs, VPs of marketing, and all strong women leaders in B2B discuss their top tactics, strategies, and tips for building high-performing teams, leveraging trends, and ultimately rocking their marketing careers. Made by and for women, insightful for all. I'm your host and 15-year B2B marketer, Jane Serra. Let's dive in. Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to Women in B2B Marketing. So excited to have another star guest on our show today. We have with us the one and only Saima Rashid, who many of you know from 6 Sense and also CMO Coffee Talks. She is the SVP of Marketing and Revenue Analytics at 6 Sense. And she's just an amazing person and host of CMO Coffee Talks, and she has great nuggets to share every time I hear her speak. So I'm so excited for her to join us on today's show. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Jane. I've been a fan of your podcast. I think I even brought it up in CMO Coffee Talk one time. I was like, oh my God, Jane's here. Like, I'm so excited. So it's an honor to be on your podcast. Thank you.
You're the best. CMO Coffee Talks is such a good, I don't even know what to call it because it's community, but it's so much more. Like I learn every time I interact in Slack and the chat of the live talks. And it's one of the things everybody that I speak to looks forward to every Friday. So learning something, no pitching, and just community and building and talking to everybody, your peers, and getting ideas. It's amazing. So thank you for keeping that going.
Oh, myself included. I look forward to it every Friday and so happy that, it's a forum that people love, and we're getting into it now, but I'm a data girl. I love to look at the metrics and the numbers, and it's not just a community, it's an engaged community, and that's what makes it so special, right? 6 Sense could put on a community and have people join it, but it would not mean a thing if people weren't getting value from it and doing something with it. And we have 4,000 CMOs as part of it, but just to have folks show up every Friday in the way they are, right? It's 8 a.m. Like I'm on my treadmill, it's getting my steps in, but just to be there and be able to talk about problems that we might be facing or ideas that worked really well for someone else, or just get inspired by something completely unrelated to our career, right? I look forward to it too. So
exactly. And there's so many, even in just the chat, I love active chats. To me, that's the sign of if a community is engaged or not, right? Or if a topic is resonating. And it's just always, there's so much chat going on and everyone's very open too. Mm-hmm. It's because it's a safe space. So anyway, we could make the whole episode about creating a safe space and a good community. Maybe we'll do that another time. But let's pause and rewind a little bit. Saima, can you tell us your journey into B2B marketing and how you got to your amazing position where you are now?
Yeah, it's a unique path, I would say. I've always been in operations and analytics. My first job out of college was, and I'm dating myself here, but back when I started, companies did not have their own analytics teams. Right? It was just not a function that existed. And so I worked for the first 10 years of my career in an analytics consulting company where we were the analytics team for big Fortune 100, 1,000 companies that were generating tons of data, but weren't really analyzing it. And so it was a great place to get started to understand how to evaluate what programs work, how to bring some rigor around that, how to not just take the data and derive insights from it, but then take action and say, here's what needs to happen next. And because it was a consulting company, there were so many clients that I worked with. So you got to cut your teeth into financial services and tech and the restaurant industry and just any, again, B2B company that was, or B2C even, that was generating a ton of data and needed more insight into what's working. So really the first 20 years of my career have been all about data and analytics, but all with the goal to inform the right place for marketers and sellers and, CS teams to put their budget, the right programs to hone in on, how to quickly identify what's working and what's not working and how to pivot. And at some point in my career, it went from what is the data telling us to, well, what should we do then? You tell people enough times, hey, we should do this because it's so clear. And if it doesn't happen, you kind of just say, okay, to hell with it, I'll just do it. And so it started to translate into, okay, we'll run the program. We'll run that thing. We're going to test it and iterate on it. And I say that's exactly
wiggle marketing. Like, okay, I'll do it. Just see how things done.
And so that's what got me to this role. I mean, even at 6 Sense, I was not hired to run marketing. Latney will tell you it was part of her grand plan, and she brought me on as her successor, and she's so kind. But truly, I was hired to, again, build an analytics team. And then when Latney Conant was promoted to CRO, love to see a CMO move into that role. So happy to see it. I took on the head of marketing role. And so it's been a fun ride, and it's been another big change of how do you take everything that you can do, but there's plenty of things I now own that I've never owned before, right? And so a little bit of let's lean into what what I do really well, I think, and then also lean into the things that I know I don't do as well because I haven't owned them. Let's put really great people around it and see what we can do.
How have you gotten clarity on what you do really, really well and what you don't do really, really well? It's probably harder doing the latter, right? Like you kind of can lean in on what you love doing and you know you're good at, but how do you identify the areas where you're weaker and you want to bring other people into?
Yeah, it's interesting. I would say I struggle with both to some extent, right? Because maybe it's a female thing, but we don't always give ourselves the credit for what we, when we're doing a great job. So I've worked on that over the years. And then anytime you're feeling hesitant or scared, I take it as a good sign. And I didn't used to, but I've learned that I need to lean into that, into the scary, and really try and conquer that next thing and figure as much about it as I can. I was telling somebody, I don't remember who, that at some point in your career, what gets you to that level is knowing everything about everything, right? And you got to get into the details and you got to know it. But at some point in your career, you just don't have bandwidth or ability to get deep into anything. But if it's still something that scares you or still something that's a bit of the unknown, that's where the growth happens. And that's where it expands your own horizons. Frankly, even as somebody who with a data and analytics background, the fact that, I can have a fantastic product marketing team around me or incredibly creative folks on the design team, like that's exciting to lean into something that I know has not been something that I've spent a whole lot of time in. And so I'm leaning into the unknown and leaning into that feeling of hesitation or being scared is something that I would say every person should be doing.
Yeah, I love that. I wrote that down too, where if we were to make a sticker for your episode, I think I'd already put lean into the scary as a quote from you. So I had I would say kind of a mentor, but a leader in the space say to me once before a webinar, I asked him if he still got nervous because he did 1 million webinars at this point. And he said, Jane, if you ever stop getting nervous before hosting or speaking, it means you no longer care. So like having that, it's like you said, like lean into the scary and what gives you a little anxiety, not a lot, but a little of fear, right? And because it means you care, follow what you care about.
You care, you will always walk away with something new in every conversation. I can't say, even if I do the same presentation 4 times, there'll be something different about it. The other thing that I tell my team as well, and I practice, and it's the worst thing in the world, but I make myself go back and watch the webinars or the onstage sessions, because there's always, again, something you will take away of, this worked well, this didn't work well. And it's, it's a hard thing to do, but especially for, the younger folks on my team who may be early, presenting their first few times, you gotta always take away something from it and iterate, improve, make it better.
I love that. It's so hard though, watching film of yourself or I don't even like to listen to the recordings, like the podcast episodes afterwards, or I want to fast forward my parts and just hear the guests. It's so hard. But you have to, like you said, identify like what are things that you do that you don't realize you're doing or opportunities for.
There's always an opportunity to get better and to, learn.
Exactly. So being at a big brand, at least huge in the marketing revenue go-to-market space, it was 6 Sense. What is it like? Because you've been there through the growth now of 6 Sense when it was a bit smaller, or maybe even through the beginning. Correct me if I'm wrong there. So how has it been being there, and what has changed through the years behind the scenes, a glimpse into 6 Sense life? That would be great.
Yeah, I was a customer for 5 years, and then I've been here for 3. So a lot of experience presenting at their very first customer conference where there were 100 people to now presenting when there's, over 1,000.
Wow.
What has changed and what is the same is interesting. we have a lot of folks, especially on this marketing team, who've been here a long time. And that's incredible to me because there's this, people will stay in a role as long as they're learning something new and as long as they're doing interesting work. And so I think it's a testament to the fact that we are consistently innovating and trying new things and pushing the envelope for how to be better. That it's, we've got a lot of folks on this team who are so bright and energetic and creative and want to see this thing, grow. And then what's changed is we have had to learn how to scale, right? What we were doing even 3 years ago or even 2 years ago, when we were half the size, those same processes, those same things don't work necessarily as you grow. And so it's been good because I think every company has to go through a little bit of those growing pains, but I wouldn't even call it that because as long as we're executing in a way that we know is repeatable, in a way that we know we're keeping our eyes on what's working and how the data is informing it, it allows you to scale, right? Great operational processes. We have fantastic ops leaders in marketing and across the organization. Like those are the things that just allow us to scale and do it better and do it quicker.
Do you find that you still, for scaling, right, and all of the growth that you've seen across the past few years, do you find that you're tapping into the analytics mind and seeing, okay, where do we need to scale and move the team and build out new sectors and divisions of the marketing team?
It's not like we have unlimited budget or unlimited headcount to go and do the things we need to do, right? No company does. And so we've gotten really creative of giving internal folks new opportunities to expand their horizons, take what they've learned in one role and apply it elsewhere. We've changed around where teams sit to drive better collaboration, right? Does the design team, should they sit in growth marketing? Should they sit outside? Where should demand gen sit? Where should content sit? Like we've made big pivots. And I think that's what's helped because we have to reduce friction, not just in the customer journey. And there could be a whole episode on how to reduce friction and provide really great clarity to your prospects. But internally, we've got to make it easy for people to do the jobs that need to be done and all the things that can be automated, all the things that might have ambiguity around ownership. Like, let's just make it really clear, all with the intention, by the way, that it doesn't have to be set in stone. We can change this. Let's see how it goes. And so while we've scaled and we've grown, we're still a scrappy team. Like we're still ready to jump in, pull, even if it's not necessarily part of your role, people are always willing to lean in. And we have this internal value that we call yes and we shout out for people who applied the yes and mentality. They're like, yes, I'll do that. And I'm going to do this because that's what drives the culture, I think, of this team. That's what encourages us to keep innovating. And that's what allows us to continue to be inspired in the work that we're doing.
Yeah. Always thinking like beyond just getting one thing done, ticking a box. I love that. So as you've shifted the team and made pivots over the year, are there any, and you don't have to get into specifics here, of course, your call, how deep we go, but have there been what signals have you seen that suggested that created the need for a pivot, or what made it pop to the idea in your head? Like, okay, we need to try to move design over here and then this team over here. Yeah.
I would say probably it's been challenges that have arisen, right? Who's got the ball on something? If there's a lack of clarity, well, we need to make that really clear, right? And you don't always have to, by the way, make organizational changes to have people work better together. So there's plenty of times where there's just been ownership changes of things, or we have this concept that we use internally called DRI, which is directly responsible individual. And so we'll assign DRIs to specific things, even if it's not necessarily part of your role. You can be the DRI on a specific initiative or project. And in certain cases, when we have found that things are getting lost in translation or a resource that's needed here is dependent on something else happening elsewhere, that's generally a good signal that we probably need to bring those teams together and have them work more collaboratively, be in the weekly, team calls, just so that we're getting rid of any sort of doubt or lack of clarity. Clarity is just, I feel, something that brings ease into the working day to day. And so the more we can bring that, the better it is.
Yeah, I love that clarity. Now that you are overseeing these teams, I know you said that your team is still very scrappy as you've grown. It's kind of, I think it's built into our nature in SaaS, right?
I think so.
How much are you like hands-on, like doing some specific marketing component versus is it like 90% team management, people management?
Oh, I think I will always be a player coach. And I encourage every single leader on my team to be a player coach. We don't have the luxury of just being managers. And also, I don't think it's in the DNA of any of us to be that. We all want to be in it. We all want to be, there's plenty of things to be done. I'll be in Salesforce every day creating a report. I'll be reading copy and giving feedback every day on like a new ebook that we're writing. I will go in and write the thing too. So we are all player coaches. And I think part of why I took on this role, believe it or not, was because I kind of, I was looking for something new and you got to keep the mind sharp. Like you have to be in it. You have to own it. You have to lead from the front. I will never ask someone on my team to do something or put in the time or hours if I'm not doing it myself. And I would say the same of everyone in the marketing team. And I think it's just, that's in our DNA.
Yeah. Collaborative. Agreed. Being in like hands-on and everything, what do you see working nowadays for just driving revenue at the end of the day, but pipeline revenue? What's working and what's not working in 2025 and beyond?
Yeah, I can speak for my team itself. The things that work really well are, some of it is the same focus, and that is like clarity and laser focus on ICP. ICP. Let's refine it. Let's make sure we've defined it appropriately. Let's make sure all our programs are, addressing all parts of the ICP, but in a meaningful way based on where they are in their journey, right? That hasn't changed. A focus on that full journey, so brand to demand, critical. We'll never step away from that. There's so much that Sixth Sense does that is not going to translate into pipeline until much later on in that journey, but we want to be in those conversations, right? Whether it's the research that Carrie Cunningham and team put out, whether it's the community aspect of what we do, whether it's the early stage, using our own technology. We drink our own champagne here. And so whether it's, using those signals to identify when an account is showing early intent and what topics and things they care about, like providing a really personalized experience. But then there's the new AI agents. BDRs report into marketing at Sixth Sense, and so they're part of my team. But what the BDRs do on a day-to-day has changed significantly, right? We have agents now handling inbound and outbound outreach, and our BDRs are augmenting that with really personalized activities over that. They are on the phone a lot more than they've ever been. And that's working really well for us because it's allowed us to scale and, with the same amount of BDRs on our team, scale the output, but give them more interesting work again to do and take the repeatable things off their plate. And we've promoted more BDRs than ever in the past 2 quarters because of some of this stuff, right? So those are the things that are working really well. What's not, I will say, we will try everything once. We're going to innovate. We're going to try. We're going to iterate. And then if it doesn't work, we just won't, right? Things like content syndication is not really, we're not doing that.
It doesn't work for anyone, any listeners. If that has worked for you, please message us.
Yeah, let us know. Even from an event strategy perspective, right? Really curated, smaller, purpose-driven events work really well for us. We have, we'll try things, and if we'll do sponsorships of things, and if they don't work, that's great. We tried it, and it didn't work. We won't do it again. So having a measurement plan in place from the beginning and knowing what you're going to be managing and expecting from it early on will allow you to make those decisions.
Love it. You mentioned focus, which is so important, especially the past few years, it seems, right? And with everybody always wanting to be an armchair marketer, do you remain focused and prioritize and keep your team prioritized when there's so many distractions, like sales team asking to go to this event and the CS team wanting to launch this and everybody having all of these often great ideas? And yes, we'd love to do this, but to your earlier point, nobody has an unlimited budget, right? There's some things we won't be able to do. So how do you keep your team focused on those priorities?
Yeah, I think we try and use a lot of the tools that folks use, right? V2Mom, OKRs. Do we always succeed? No, we're marketers, right? There's always a shiny object syndrome, let's be honest, or there's always the must do or the must, we've got to be here or we've got to do this thing. As a leadership team, especially on the marketing side, we really, really try to control some of that. We're trying to do it even more so in the coming year. We're planning for FY26, but we will. Going back to the ICP, right? That is not a marketing term. That is something that marketing, sales, and CS are all fully aligned on. So getting those pieces right at the beginning of the year, again, bringing clarity to the fact that this is who we care about. This is who we're going after. That helps to be a tiebreaker between should we do something or should we not, right? Is our ICP there? Who's the audience? Is this, where we want to spend the budget, or would it be better to continue down what we're doing? Like, we really try and apply those approaches. We get it right a lot of the time. I'll be honest. I don't think, there will always be the things that come up.
Yeah.
Mid-quarter, mid-year, we'll pivot. And that's also healthy. If we need to pivot, we should.
That's true. There's always unforeseen things. I mean, the past 5 years, if anything, has taught us that. Yeah, we have to learn how to pivot and move. That's fair. Speaking of focus and clarity, we were talking a little bit before this because this has been top of mind for me lately, but SKOs and RKOs. I imagine Sixth Sense has a huge one and you do a great job at it. Is that a key opportunity for rallying all of the teams, the whole revenue org, and focused and getting that clarity at that event?
We have to. Now, our RKO has been virtual for a couple of years, and then we try and do a mid-year that is in person. And either way, it's a real sort of luxury to be able to get the team together for a week or for a couple of days and focus on what we want to be achieving as a company. And so whether it's virtual or in person, I think a good SKO, RKO has got to bring the right mix of inspiration, clarity, and fun, right? So inspiration on everybody wants to be a part of something great and something important and something big, right? And so we've got to set that vision for where we want to go as a company and what we want to achieve. But the clarity comes from, okay, well, how are we going to arm you and make it easy for you to then go out and achieve the things you need to do in your role, right? Whether it's something as tactical as like a comp plan, or, how we're going to be addressing certain things like territories or specific campaigns or themes we want to hit on. But we need to give that clarity to the team if we're asking them to come along and be on that ride with us. And then, this is just a great opportunity to get the team together and have fun. Again, whether it's virtual or in person, making sure we're setting aside moments for getting to know each other more, engaging, breaking down the silos, learning more about each other.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's such a key aspect of it, right? There's the clarity and showing meaning. I think a lot of us, yes, at the end of the day, revenue is our goal, right? Because revenue helps us grow. It helps pays our salaries. It's a part of what keeps the world running. But I think as humans, we want to be a part of something that has a bigger meaning than just that revenue goal. So that I love that you mentioned that, like the rallying everybody behind what you're actually doing, right? At Sixth Sense, for example, like how you're helping people and why it's important that you do what you do and how the impact you have on other people's lives. I love that.
Yeah. And it's a unique position where we work for a company where we are the target persona, right? Whether it's marketing or sales. And so we run Sixth Sense for Sixth Sense. And so it's a different level of ownership, I would say even, right? I mean, we get to use the platform and the product every day, but we want to make sure that other people also get the goodness out of it. And so I think that vision part hits home even more so.
It does. I love that when you're sipping your own champagne, the team will actually believe in what they're selling in marketing, which goes so far for our positions and being able to really speak about it properly. On the RKO and SKO front, conversations I've been having a lot lately with friends and peers in marketing is the sponsorship side of things. Like we recently sponsored a couple of SKOs for our key partners that we want to align more with this year. And it's already showing that it was a success with less than a week afterwards. So I'm pumped about that side. And I know Sixth Sense, because you are sipping your own champagne, I'm sure there's a ton of partners that want to sponsor yours. I'm curious if you have any thoughts on what makes a sponsorship successful from either side. Like if you sponsor somebody's SKO or if a partner is sponsoring yours, what advice do you have for making that a success on both
The
ends.
success. Yeah. And I might expand that question even beyond SKO to events in general, because we do a lot of industry events and we host as well as we sponsor. And going back to the data, right? We have a 10x rule. If we're we're sponsoring something with partners or an event or running our own event, we want to yield 10x return of qualified pipe from that. And so we'll hold ourselves to that absolutely when we do budgeting and planning for our own events. But we want to also make sure that we're yielding that. And so we go in with plans. Again, this goes back to clarity and planning, right? What do we want to get out of these events? Is it in the case of, sponsoring prospects or customers, SKOs, there's less of that component. It is all about, again, making sure that we are in front of the right folks. We are explaining how to use the product. Like, it's a slightly different thing. But if we are sponsoring a third-party event, we want to make sure that we're not just showing up with a booth and with some swag. We're getting meetings booked before we get there. How many meetings will we need in order to hit that 10x pipeline goal? Like, that's the type of planning and curation that happens well before even making the decision to sponsor. And we have a fantastic ABX team at Sixth Sense that really applies a data-driven approach to, again, the audience, who's researching those terms, who is going to, what this previous year's list look like. Are they our ICP? Back to the focus, right? That's where you hone in on, is this a good fit for us? And in the same way for our partners or for companies that want to sponsor with us, we want to curate really great packages so that they are getting the visibility that they deserve from their investment. They are getting as much out of it as possible. And so we'll start that process fairly early on as well. I think the more we can get ahead of these things and apply the right approach, focus, lens, output, the better it is for us and our partners who we're so lucky enough to have sponsor what we do.
Yeah. I mean, the preparation, right, is key for all of these. I think it's so hard at smaller teams, like where I work. It's two of us right now on the marketing team, and it's tough because you have a ton of, we are sales led, so definitely a lot of sales people saying they want to be at this show, at that show. I remember when you first mentioned the 10x pipeline. This was in CMO Coffee Talks, and I started chatting with you on the side, and I wrote this down, and we now follow that as well. But it's like, if you don't hit that, then the next year we're not going to go to this show. And it gives you those metrics, right? Like, this doesn't make sense for us unless we want to try it again and come back with a completely different strategy.
Yeah. And again, it's not like our teams are going to do less. They're going to apply the same effort elsewhere, and maybe we'll get a better yield. Going back to the fact that, again, we all have to maximize our budgets and most importantly, time, which is the biggest resource, right, of our teams, and just make sure they are getting what they need out of these programs, ourselves and the places where we would be.
Exactly. It's for the good of everybody, right? If it's not yielding the results, why do we want to do that again, right? Definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Speaking of CMO Coffee Talks, where the 10X rule I first learned that from you, how has being a part of CMO Coffee Talks changed you, if at all? Not to put words in your mouth, but how has it impacted your career growth, you personally?
Yeah, it's such a wonderful community. And now that, I'm at Sixth Sense and we run it, I know all the hard work that goes into curating a community like that. Like, there's, dedicated resources and time. The benefits that I personally have gotten out of it is, I would just say, having access to a peer group of folks who understand and are all going through the same stuff, right? And it can be really lonely when you're in a specific role and there's not too many people around that you can talk to. We can talk to our family about a lot of things. We can talk to our friends about a lot of things, but there's certain things that you won't really get or be able to even understand unless you're in that place, right? Like, if I talk to my friends about a 10X pipeline rule, they'd be like, what are you talking about, Saima? Right? But you all get it. And so just the fact that there is this community that we can throw in a question, again, as a safe space, it's a place where I can get feedback or even run an idea by, or even just do a search on and say, hey, what conversations have come up? I think some of the relationships that have been built, by the way, through that, invaluable, right? These are folks that doesn't matter if I'm at 6 Cents or if they're at where they are, we will continue to build these friendships regardless. And we know that there's a community that's got our back. It's also just a whole lot of fun. I think, it brings a moment of levity in an otherwise busy week where you're in back-to-back calls and all of a sudden you can get on a call and talk about an interesting topic that we will either do a community-led sharing on or learn from an expert. I mean, it's just a great, great forum. And I'm so lucky. I feel like I've gotten so much out of it. And it makes me happy when I hear that other folks are getting the same.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I've had at least 20 or more guests come from conversations and relationships I've built through CMO Coffee Talks. So
cool, right? And we always try, like, again, if we're going to an industry event and there's a couple of folks from Coffee Talk there, like, we'll say, let's get together, let's do a happy hour, let's meet up for lunch. When it moves outside of the virtual, it's even better.
Agreed. I love when you guys do that. Please keep that up. I hope this always continues and grows. I always recommend any friends that are also great for finding a job, because when I was looking back in the day, I had so many referrals come from this community too. So highly recommend everyone check it out. I'll put a link in show notes. But what else, Saima, has, like, you are the face of or one of the faces of CMO Coffee Talks, you're a face of 6 Cents. Who is Saima behind the scenes? Like, what has been a defining moment of your career that has shaped like any kind of change or pivot, or who you have become or are in the process of still becoming?
Yeah, I will say probably still in the process, right? I wouldn't even say it's any specific moment. I think there's been times in my career where I've had to, again, lean into what is something that is new, either, by saying yes to something and not knowing how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to say yes, or just taking on something that is completely outside of my wheelhouse. But I'm just going to say, I think that what has shaped me very much so is being a mother coming back into the workforce.
Yeah.
I took time off when I had my children. I had them in quick succession, and I took, a couple years off just to be with them. And I think we can that's a choice every person makes for themselves. I wouldn't say it's right or wrong. It was just what worked for our family. And then going back into the workforce with having 2 young children and navigating the fact that, okay, I am now being pulled in so many different directions. Like, that was a pivot that was really hard. And working moms are the best multitaskers. They are the best. Like, they will get it done. They know how to block off their time and do certain things and get it done because they know they've got to be home in time for the 6 p.m. daycare pickup, where if you're late, they charge you $20 a minute, I think, or something like that, right? So we get
5 minutes. Yeah,
we get really good at managing our time, prioritizing, getting it done, and then, giving our best, whether it's at work and at home. And so that was just a revelation. And I think that kicked things into gear for me of, I want to do really well. I'm not going to at any point, not focus on what my kids need and what I can do there. But then when they're off in school, this is something I need for me. And so it brought a lot of clarity to wanting to do more, do it better in all aspects of my life. And so I would say a lot of sort of the newer things that I took on, or my ambition grew because I wanted to, do something that I was really proud of, and hopefully my kids are proud of one day too.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And if anyone is listening and not seeing me the whole time, I'm like nodding my head. It's so true. When moms, everyone says multitasking isn't a thing, which I kind of subscribe to, right? What is it called? Instead of multitask, you task switch, right? Yeah, that's the thing. But I would put an asterisk there and say, except for mothers, because we definitely know how to juggle with a million distractions and people calling us and asking us for different things, which perfectly aligns with the job of a marketing leader.
Right? And so get it done.
Mm-hmm. And we know how to pivot and okay, this fire is happening over here while I put that out. Yes, you can do this, approve this, and read this copy, make these changes. We know how to shift between each really fast.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So that was a big, shift in my career, I would say.
I love it. Is there any person that's like a role model for you, or where do you derive your inspiration from?
So many people. I think every conversation I take away some nugget, some goodness, like from this one included, right? I love to learn from other people. I would say, my mother in general, she raised 4 girls and a son, and she instilled she went and did her master's when I think there were 4 other women in her class graduating from her master's degree at that point, right? So
You should have her on the show.
I know. And she instills, this work ethic, this importance on education, and just, all of that in her girls. And then in my work life, I've been mentored and sponsored by wonderful female and male managers and leaders, right? Latney, I already spoke about, her bringing me on into this role. I've had Mariana Kogan, who is a previous leader of mine, and just so many folks along the way who have helped and sponsored and pushed me into things maybe that I didn't think I was ready for, but, they saw something in me. And so I'm so lucky, to have had those mentors along the way, and hopefully can do the same for my team. Like that's the goal, right? You want to also encourage other folks around you to see something in themselves that maybe they don't see, or, to take on a challenge that they wouldn't necessarily raise their hand for. Like it's our job as leaders to find those opportunities for people and encourage them to take advantage of it.
I love that. And you're making me think, so first, it's so amazing you've had all of these leaders and mentors to learn from, and that watched out for you, right? And found this something in you that they really knew that you had all of this ability. I'm curious. So I'm thinking of how to say this. So with the imposter syndrome piece that we kind of touched on in the beginning, right? And being able to identify our own strengths and weaknesses. When you say, like, you've had these mentors who found something, they saw something in you, what part of that can you own? Like, what part did you take in the growth of your own career? Because I 100% agree.
Yeah.
You need to look out for others, especially other women, and make sure that they see these things in themselves. But what is it, like, what advice do you have to, like, what action did you take on that? Is it bringing these mentors in? Or, like, if you really think about it, what was your, how to put it to words?
Yeah, I know what you're getting at, right? Because yes, people have to be in rooms where you're not, and to give you those opportunities, but what gets them to be that mentor and sponsor for you, right? And I would say for anyone, what I would even maybe just tell myself or somebody in my career is, you have to own your career. You have to own your path and your trajectory. And that's a easy statement to say, but what does that mean? That means you need to speak up. You need to have important things to say and show the impact of what you're doing. Going back to, again, measurement and being able to articulate the fact that, yes, here's the outcome of what we drove. Whether you're the only female in the room, and there's been plenty of rooms where I've been the only female in the room, being able to find your voice, right? You are there for a reason. You got to own your shit, right? Own it, articulate it, and, tell your story. And hopefully that is, what will get you to that next level. But if we're not raising hands proactively, or when someone else gives you an opportunity, if you're not saying yes, that's on you. That really is something you have to take control of yourself. Find those opportunities and raise hands for them. Or when it's in front of you, it's going to be scary, but say the yes, because you will only learn and grow from it.
Yes. This is reminding me, I think it's Shelley Reed from The Reader, who has been saying on LinkedIn a lot lately, like, no, she's not lucky. She worked her ass off to get to where she is. And this is reminding me of that. Like, I do think we always tend to think for ourselves, like, oh yeah, I was in the right place at the right time. But there's also so much control that we have in this situation, making sure that we are speaking our mind and putting our name in the hat, right? Things like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you're in a room and even in a meeting, if you're in a meeting, you're there for a reason. Are you contributing to it? If not, should you be there? Ask yourself that question. What do I have to say? What can I take away from it? What can I contribute? And if you can't, then it's totally fine, by the way, to not be there next time, right?
Yes. Oh, that's a whole side thing. I always tell my team everywhere I am, if you do not gain value or add value to a meeting, you can decline. You do not have to be in a meeting.
You said it perfectly.
I know we spoke about a bunch of some mentors and things that have gotten you forward in your career. Has there been any kind of hurdle that you've overcome as well, like difficulty or something that felt like a setback, but you overcame it? I'd love to.
Yeah, all the time, right? There's always setbacks. There's always, like, you're going to be told no more often than you're going to be told yes. And I think it's what you do with the no that will, bring you success or not. And sometimes it's a no, but it's just really a not right now, and so understanding that, or understanding how you need to pivot. So there's been, no major sort of big, thing in my career, I would say that's, I've had to overcome, but it's every day. Every day you're making judgment calls. You're figuring out, should I put my time here? Should I put my time there? Okay, if it's a no for this one thing, can I get this other thing done? And at some point, I would say I've typically in my career, it's maybe unique for MarTech and SaaS or marketing in general. I've stayed for a long time at the companies I've been at, right? 10 years for the first one, 8 years for the next, and now I've been here 3 years. So
Wow, yeah.
I tend to always be seeking something new and interesting to provide impact to where I am. Like, it doesn't have to mean a shift, but at some point you also know when it's time to leave. And maybe you've exhausted your learning. Maybe you've exhausted kind of what you're really good at. Or you've built a great team around you that's ready. And for them to get to the next level, you do need to kind of give them an opening, regardless of what it is. I think that was a lesson for me of just knowing when it's time to move on to the next thing.
Yeah. What do you think? I mean, you sort of just touched on this, but what do you think kept you at each company for a long time? Is it you created your own challenges and new things that you could learn? Or do you think that was also just the nature of a growing business?
No, I would say you have to find what's new and interesting for yourself. And it doesn't even have to be a change in a role, right? It can be taking on more or something new, or finding a different way of doing things or improving something. And so I've stayed at companies because I would always say no 2 years have been the same, even if I've been there for 10 years or 8 years, right? If we're doing the same job day in and day out, I don't want to do that. And there's a lot of folks who probably don't want to do it, right? And so finding the new, the improvement, the scale, the innovations that you can bring, building great teams up and around you, and then giving them the opportunity to do so. It's a wonderful thing to be able to see, right? And then those are the things that keep me grounded and keep me where I am. And then at some point, you have to give others an opportunity to step up, and then it's time probably to go on to the next thing.
Yeah. And always just looking for, I mean, in marketing, nothing is ever that one day is never the same as the last. It's always changing. I think that's part of my draw to this role.
Right? There's something probably we all have in us inherently that, drives us.
All marketers have ADHD.
Right? We're always looking for the new thing.
Yeah, for sure. If you could go back in time 10, 15, 20 years to Saima just graduating college, what would you say to your younger self, knowing all that you've grown and experienced now?
Oh my gosh, that's a good question. I have a lot of trust in, if you do the right things, good things happen. And I don't know if that's just something that was ingrained in me as a child, but you do the right thing and good things will come of it. And so I would say, keep doing the right things. Like, keep focusing on what challenges you and what interests you, but also driving impact. And then I would tell her, maybe say yes more often. Say yes, lean into it. It'll only ever give you goodness.
So true. And if it doesn't, then you stop.
Keep it out.
Yeah, you just got to, I love that, because I feel like the past decade or 5 years, the whole say no to things has been so popular, which I also get in certain circumstances.
Yes.
But I feel like you have to have a yes period. I just went through mine. I had like a year or two where I would just like opportunities came my way and I just said yes.
What did I do for you? Tell me. I hate to turn it back on you.
No, all good. At podcasts, right? Saima also, if you don't know, has podcasts, I will link to it. So it's the nature of being a host, right? But yes, this show came out of it, saying yes to this, new career opportunities, becoming an advisor to different companies. So lots of opportunities and doors have opened. That's just been amazing. And really the biggest thing for me, meeting new people and building my network. Like you said, being able to have that network and community of peers that you can talk to. Like, I have a WhatsApp group of my go-to marketing friends that we can just discuss, like, oh, this is happening. Am I crazy? And they're like, no, they're crazy. Like, and we'll just discuss, and they get it because we're talking pipeline or like influencers and things that our family and non-marketing friends just didn't get. So that's probably been the biggest of them.
Oh, I love that. That's good to hear.
There's an asterisk. Yeah, exactly. I love it. Thank you so much, Saima, for joining us. I'm so excited. For anybody who would love to learn more and want to connect with you, where's the best place for them to find you?
Find me on LinkedIn. Happy to connect.
Exactly. Love it. And I will again put a link. This feels like I was like promoting CMO Coffee Talks a lot, but I'm happy to anytime because it is so good. So I'll put a link to that down below as well. But thank you, Saima, for joining us. It was so great chatting with you today.
Thank you, Jane. Pleasure.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for listening. If you liked the episode, you liked the show, share with a friend, post on LinkedIn, tag us, and rate and review because it helps us get in front of more folks, more listeners. So thank you all. Have a good day.